The morning sun cast long shadows across the massive doors of the Terran Defense Museum. Captain Hei-Yun Park pulled her coat tighter against the cold wind. Her breath made small clouds in the air as she looked up at the building. Behind these doors sat something special, something most people had forgotten. The security guard checked her credentials twice. Not many people asked to visit this part of the museum anymore, especially not at 6 a.m. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" he asked, his hand hovering over the control panel. "That old thing hasn't moved in 20 years. Hei-Yun nodded. She had fought too hard to get here to turn back now. For 6 months, she had filled out forms, attended meetings, and argued with officials who thought she was wasting their time. But now she was here, and she would prove them all wrong. The doors opened slowly, groaning with age. The sound echoed through the empty museum halls. As the gap widened, Hei-Yun saw it. The TSS Boundless, Earth's last Aegis-class battleship, sat in the dim light, its dark metal hull still proud despite years of sitting unused. "Hello, old friend," she whispered, walking toward the ship. Her footsteps rang against the metal floor. Unlike the newer ships in the fleet, with their smooth white surfaces and glowing quantum cores, the Boundless was all angles and armor. Its hull bore the marks of past battles, each scratch telling a story of survival. Hei-Yun climbed the boarding ramp, running her hand along the cold metal railing. The ship's systems were basic by today's standards. A fusion reactor instead of a quantum core, manual controls instead of neural networks, and actual physical buttons instead of holographic displays. But that was exactly why she wanted it. Inside, the air smelled of old metal and electronics. Hei-Yun made her way to the bridge, where 5 people waited for her. They were her chosen crew, volunteers who believed in her crazy idea. Captain on the bridge called out Jiho Yang, her tactical officer. He stood at attention, his uniform crisp despite the early hour. Next to him, Chief Engineer Du-Yan Choi looked up from a tablet displaying the ship's old schematics. "At ease," Hei-Yun said, walking to the captain's chair. It was made of real leather, cracked with age, but still sturdy. She sat down, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "Report." Du-Yan stepped forward. "The fusion reactor is in better shape than we expected, Captain. It's old technology, but it was built to last. Give me 2 weeks, and I can have it running as good as new." "You have 1 week," Hei-Yun replied. "Fleet Command's patience is already running thin." The others shared worried looks. They all knew what people were saying about this project. The media called it a waste of resources. Military experts laughed at the idea of reactivating an obsolete warship. Even Hei-Yun's old academy friends thought she had lost her mind. But Hei-Yun saw something they didn't. The newest ships in Earth's defense fleet were marvels of technology. They could think faster than human crews, move without using fuel, and create shields made of quantum energy. They were perfect, too perfect. "Do you know why I chose each of you?" Hei-Yun asked, looking at her small crew. They shook their heads. "Because you understand something important," she continued. "You know that newer isn't always better. Every system in those modern ships is connected. One problem affects everything. But the Boundless, each system stands alone. If something breaks, we can fix it without shutting down the whole ship." She stood up and walked to the front viewport. Through the dusty glass, she could see the museum's other exhibits, pieces of humanity's journey to the stars. "They call us crazy for wanting to preserve this ancient technology. They say we're living in the past. But I study the reports from the outer colonies. Strange things are happening out there. Ships losing power for no reason. Communication systems failing. And always around the same time they detect quantum disturbances." Hei-Yun turned back to her crew. "That's why we're here. The Boundless doesn't rely on quantum technology. It runs on principles as old as physics itself. And someday that might make the difference between survival and extinction." The next few days passed in a blur of activity. Du-Yan and her engineering team worked around the clock, replacing old parts and testing systems. Jiho practiced with the manual targeting controls until he could hit a target with his eyes closed. The rest of the crew learned every inch of their stations, understanding that they couldn't rely on computer assistance like modern ships did. Hei-Yun spent her time in the ship's archives, reading old mission reports and technical manuals. The more she learned about the Boundless, the more convinced she became that its design was special. It wasn't just old technology. It was technology built to last, to survive when everything else failed. One evening, as she sat in her new quarters reviewing maintenance logs, Hei-Yun found something interesting. The ship's designer had left notes in the margins of the original blueprints. Most were technical details, but one caught her eye. When the lights go out, the old ways will light the path. She was still thinking about those words the next morning when Admiral Ta-1 Kim arrived for the inspection. He was an old-school officer who had started his career on ships like the Boundless, but even he seemed skeptical. "Captain Park," he said, walking onto the bridge. "Show me why I shouldn't order this ship broken down for scrap right now." Hei-Yun smiled. "With pleasure, sir. Do-Yun, start the reactor." Deep in the ship's heart, the fusion reactor hummed to life. It wasn't the silent power of a quantum core. It was the sound of controlled lightning, of hydrogen atoms dancing and becoming something new. The lights came on, systems booted up, and the Boundless awoke from its long sleep. "All stations, report readiness," Hei-Yun ordered. One by one, her crew called out their status. Every system worked perfectly, just as she knew they would. The Admiral walked around the bridge, checking displays and asking questions. His expression changed from doubt to interest, and finally to understanding. "You've done good work here, Captain," he said at last. "But tell me honestly, why? Why spend so much effort on this old ship when we have better ones?" Hei-Yun gestured to the main screen, which showed a tactical display of Earth's defense fleet. Dozens of modern ships floated in orbit, their quantum cores pulsing with energy. "Because, sir, I believe we've forgotten something important. We've made our ships so advanced that we don't truly understand them anymore. But this ship," she patted the arm of her chair, "we know every bolt, every wire, every system. If something goes wrong, we can fix it with our own hands. And someday that might be more valuable than all the quantum technology in the galaxy." Admiral Kim nodded slowly. "Very well, Captain. You have 6 months to prove this ship's worth. After that, its fate will be decided." As the Admiral left, Hei-Yun looked at her crew. They all knew 6 months wasn't much time. But they also knew something else. They were part of something special. The TSS Boundless might be old, but it wasn't obsolete. It was a survivor, a guardian, a legend waiting to be reborn. And somewhere out in the darkness between the stars, events were already in motion that would prove them right. 3 months had passed since Captain Hei-Yun Park and her crew began working on the TSF Boundless. The old battleship was now fully operational, though most of the fleet still saw it as a waste of time. Every week, Hei-Yun's team ran drills, practiced emergency procedures, and learned to work without the advanced computers that modern ships depended on. That ordinary Thursday morning started like any other. Hei-Yun sat in her captain's chair, watching her crew perform their regular checks. Du-Yun was in the engine room, monitoring the fusion reactor's steady heartbeat. Jiho practiced targeting exercises, his hands moving confidently over the manual controls. Then everything changed. The emergency communication system crackled to life. Unlike the quantum channels used by modern ships, the Boundless still used old-fashioned radio waves. Admiral Ta-1 Kim's voice came through, filled with urgency. "All ships, this is Fleet Command. Unknown vessels have appeared at the edge of our solar system. They're not responding to any attempts at communication. Battle stations, this is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Hei-Yun leaned forward in her chair. "All hands to battle stations. Du-Yun, give me full power to all systems. Jiho, bring up the tactical display." The bridge came alive with activity. Warning lights flashed red, and the sound of running feet echoed through the corridors as crew members rushed to their posts. The main screen showed a terrifying sight. 12 massive ships, unlike anything they had ever seen, moving toward Earth's defense fleet. "Captain," Jaiho called out, "the unknown ships are using some kind of energy we've never seen before. It's similar to our quantum systems, but different, more powerful." Haeyun watched as Earth's newest and most advanced ships moved to intercept the strangers. The Pride of Terra, their fleet's flagship, led the formation. Its quantum shields glowed with power as it approached the alien vessels. Then something impossible happened. A beam of strange energy shot from the lead alien ship. When it touched the Pride of Terra's shields, they didn't just fail, they disappeared. The quantum core that powered the massive ship went dark. Without power, the Pride of Terra began to drift helplessly in space. By the stars, someone whispered on the bridge. One by one, Earth's modern ships fell to the same attack. Their quantum technology, the pride of human engineering, was useless against the alien weapons. The defensive line was falling apart. Admiral Kim's voice came through again, now thick with desperation. "The enemy's weapons are affecting our quantum systems. All ships with quantum cores are to fall back immediately. We need..." Wait. There was a pause. "Captain Park, are you receiving?" "Yes, Admiral," Haeyun replied, her heart racing. "The Boundless doesn't use quantum technology, does it?" "No, sir. We're running on fusion power and analog systems." There was another pause. "Captain Park, you're now our last line of defense. While these Ravagers, as we're calling them, disable our advanced ships, your outdated technology might be our only hope. Can the old girl still fight?" Haeyun looked at her crew. She saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. They had trained for this, even if they hadn't known it at the time. "Yes, sir. The Boundless is ready." "Then get out there and show them what obsolete technology can do. The fate of Earth depends on it. Good luck, Captain." Haeyun took a deep breath. "Helm, take us out." "Full power to engines." "Jaiho, ready all weapons." "Du Yun, give us everything the reactor has." The Boundless moved forward, its fusion engines pushing it through space. Around them, modern ships floated powerless, their crews watching as the old battleships sailed past them toward the enemy. "Captain," Jaiho reported, "I'm getting clear readings on the enemy ships. Their quantum disruption fields don't affect our targeting systems." This was their advantage. While the aliens could disable advanced technology, they had no defense against simple projectiles and energy weapons powered by fusion reactors. The Boundless might be old, but its guns still worked. "All weapons, fire as soon as we're in range," Haeyun ordered. "Aim for their weapon systems first." The Boundless shuddered as its main guns fired. Rails of superheated plasma, guided by simple magnetic fields, streaked through space. The aliens, perhaps surprised that this primitive ship could still fight, took several direct hits. Direct hits on 2 enemy vessels. Jaiho called out, "Their shields are weakening." But the aliens weren't defeated yet. They turned their attention to the Boundless, firing their strange weapons. The energy washed over the old battleship, and nothing happened. "Status report," Haeyun demanded. "All systems normal, Captain." Du Yin's voice came through from engineering. "Their quantum disruption weapons can't affect our fusion reactor. We're still at full power." Haeyun allowed herself a small smile. "Then let's show them why they shouldn't underestimate old technology. All guns, continuous fire. Target their engines. Let's see how they like fighting something they can't simply turn off." The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. The Boundless, Earth's last Aegis-class battleship, fought alone against an alien fleet that had disabled humanity's most advanced warships. Its old-fashioned weapons might have been considered primitive, but they worked. And they worked well. 3 enemy ships fell to the Boundless's guns before the others began to retreat. They had come expecting an easy victory over Earth's quantum-powered fleet. Instead, they had met an ancient warrior that their advanced weapons couldn't touch. As the alien ships disappeared into deep space, cheers erupted throughout the Boundless. But He-Yun knew this wasn't over. The aliens would be back, and next time they would be ready for old technology too. "Send word to Fleet Command," she ordered. "Tell them we need to reactivate every old ship we can find. And tell them to start building new ones, ships that don't rely on quantum technology. Because those aliens will return, and when they do, we need to be ready." She looked out at the powerless modern ships, now being towed back to Earth for repairs. The Boundless might be old, but today it had proven something important. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways. "Du-Yeon," she called over the comm. "How's our girl doing?" "Proud and strong, Captain," came the reply. "The old girl's got plenty of fight left in her." He-Yun nodded. The Boundless had earned its place in history today. It was no longer a museum piece or a relic. It was a legend. And this was just the beginning. 2 weeks after the battle with the Ravagers, the TSS Boundless sat in Earth's largest shipyard. Workers swarmed around it like busy bees, studying every part of the old battleship. Captain He-Yun Park watched from the observation deck as engineers took measurements and made drawings of the Boundless's systems. "They're like children discovering an old toy," Du-Yen said, walking up beside her captain. The chief engineer looked tired but happy. She had spent the last 2 weeks explaining the ship's fusion reactor to countless scientists. "Can you blame them?" He-Yun asked with a smile. Everything they thought they knew about space warfare changed in one day. Now they need to learn the old ways again. The Boundless had become famous overnight. News channels called it the ship that saved Earth. Military leaders from every nation wanted to know how this outdated vessel had defeated enemies that their best ships couldn't touch. But He-Yun knew they didn't have time for celebrations. "Captain," Jaiho's voice came through her communicator. "Admiral Kim needs you in the command center right away." When He-Yun arrived at the command center, she found it buzzing with activity. Admiral Kim stood before a large screen showing several emergency messages from Earth's outer colonies. "The Ravagers are back," he said without turning around. "But this time, they're not just hitting our ships. They're attacking our colonies." He-Yun felt her heart sink as she read the messages. The aliens had learned from their defeat. They were targeting power plants, communication centers, and defense systems, anything that used quantum technology. Entire colonies were going dark, their advanced technology useless against the Ravager weapons. "How many ships do we have that don't use quantum tech?" she asked. 3, Admiral Kim replied. "We've reactivated 2 old cruisers from the museum fleet. With the Boundless, that makes 3 ships that might stand a chance against them." "It's not enough," He-Yun said, studying the tactical display. "We need more ships, and we need them fast." The Admiral nodded. "That's why I called you here. The Defense Council has approved an emergency plan. We're going to convert our newest ships to use hybrid technology, a mix of quantum and traditional systems, and you're going to help us do it." Over the next few days, He-Yun and her crew worked with engineers to design a new type of warship. Du-Yun's knowledge of both old and new technology proved invaluable. They found ways to combine the power of quantum cores with the reliability of fusion reactors. "The trick," Du-Yun explained to a room full of engineers, "is to keep the systems separate. When the quantum systems fail, the traditional backup systems take over. Like having 2 hearts. If one stops, the other keeps you alive." Jaiho helped design new targeting systems that could work with or without quantum assistance. "Sometimes the old way is better," he told the weapons teams. "Your own eyes and hands can see things that computers miss." But they all knew they were racing against time. Every day brought news of another colony under attack. The Ravagers were moving closer to Earth, leaving disabled settlements in their wake. One morning, as He-Yun reviewed the latest battle reports in her quarters, she found something strange. The pattern of attacks seemed familiar. She pulled up an old star chart and started marking the locations of each attack. Du Yan, she called over the comm. Can you come to my quarters? Bring those old maintenance logs we found when we first started working on the Boundless. When Du Yan arrived with the logs, He Yun spread everything out on her desk. Look at this, she said, pointing to the attack pattern. The Ravagers aren't just attacking randomly. They're following old trade routes, routes that existed before we started using quantum drive technology. Du Yan's eyes widened as she understood. They're using our own history against us. They must have been watching us for years, learning about our development. Yes, He Yun said, but that gives me an idea. Ji-ho, she called over the comm. I need you to help me plan something crazy. 3 days later, the Boundless led a small fleet of converted ships toward the Ravagers' next likely target, the mining colony on Titan. Instead of hiding their approach, they broadcast their engine signatures clearly. They'll think we're stupid, Ji-ho said from his tactical station, broadcasting our position like this. That's exactly what we want them to think, He Yun replied. Du Yan, are the modifications ready? Yes, Captain. Every ship in the fleet can switch from quantum to traditional power in less than 3 seconds. We've also installed the special surprise we discussed. They didn't have to wait long. 8 Ravager ships appeared near Titan, their quantum disruption weapons powering up. But this time, Earth's fleet was ready. All ships, execute plan switchback, He Yun ordered. As the Ravagers fired their weapons, every ship in Earth's fleet suddenly switched from quantum to traditional power. The alien weapons passed harmlessly through them. Before the Ravagers could react, Earth's ships fired their new hybrid weapons, traditional projectiles guided by quantum calculations. The battle was fierce but quick. The Ravagers, expecting another easy victory, found themselves facing ships that could adapt to their attacks. When they tried to adjust their tactics, He Yun sprung the final trap. Now, Du Yan, she ordered. The chief engineer activated a special transmitter they had built based on their study of old communication systems. It sent out a powerful burst of electromagnetic energy. Simple, crude, but effective. The pulse disrupted the Ravagers' own quantum systems, leaving them vulnerable. All ships, open fire, He Yun commanded. The space around Titan lit up with weapons fire. One by one, the Ravager ships fell to the combined might of old and new technology. This time, humanity's ships stayed in the fight. When it was over, He Yun stood on the Boundless's bridge, looking at the debris field that had once been the Ravager fleet. They had won, but she knew this wasn't the end. Somewhere out there, more Ravagers were waiting. But now humanity had a way to fight them. Send word to Earth, she told her communications officer. Tell them the hybrid defense strategy works. And tell them to keep building ships that remember the old ways. Du Yan's voice came over the comm. Captain, you should come to engineering. While we were studying those old logs, we found something else. Something that might explain why the Boundless was built the way it was. He Yun felt a chill run down her spine. The old ship had more secrets to share, and she had a feeling they were about to learn why the Boundless had really been created. The legend of the obsolete battleship was far from over. Captain He Yun Park walked quickly through the Boundless's corridors toward engineering. The ship hummed with its usual energy, but today felt different. They had just won a major victory against the Ravagers, but Du Yan's message suggested they were about to discover something even more important. She found her chief engineer in a small room next to the main engine control center. Du Yan sat at a desk covered with old paper documents and a very old computer tablet. Her eyes were wide with excitement. Captain, you need to see this, Du Yan said, holding up the tablet. It still works after all these years. I found it hidden behind a maintenance panel, sealed in a special container. He Yun took the tablet. The screen showed a video recording of an old man in a military uniform. The date stamp showed it was recorded 50 years ago, just before the Boundless was completed. "My name is Admiral Jinwoo Lee," the man in the recording said. "If you're watching this, it means the Ravagers have finally returned, and it means the Boundless has done what we built it to do." He-yun sat down heavily in a nearby chair. He knew. They knew the Ravagers were coming. The Admiral in the recording continued. 30 years ago, we discovered something terrible. Our deep space sensors detected a quantum signal from far beyond our solar system. When we decoded it, we found it was a message from our future selves, sent back through a quantum time loop. The message warned us about the Ravagers and their ability to disable quantum technology. Do-yeon paused the recording. "Captain, do you understand what this means? The Boundless wasn't just an old design. It was built specifically to fight the Ravagers." He-yun pressed play again. Admiral Lee's face looked tired but determined as he spoke. "We knew no one would believe us. How could we explain that we were building a primitive warship because of a warning from the future? So we hid the truth. We made the Boundless look like just another battleship, but we filled it with special features that wouldn't make sense until the Ravagers appeared." The recording went on to explain more secrets hidden throughout the ship. There were backup systems that no one knew about, weapons designed specifically to fight quantum-based technology, and special sensors that could detect Ravager ships from far away. "Do-yeon," He-yun said after the recording ended, "gather the senior crew. We need to start finding all these hidden systems right away." Over the next few days, the Boundless revealed its secrets. Behind ordinary-looking panels, they found advanced targeting computers that didn't use quantum technology. Under the main deck plates, they discovered a second set of power conduits that could channel energy in ways they had never seen before. "It's amazing," Jae-ho said as they tested the new targeting systems. "They took old technology and improved it in ways no one would think to look for. They hid the future in the past." Word of their discoveries spread quickly through Earth's military command. Soon, ships from all over the solar system were being retrofitted with similar systems. The Boundless became a teaching ship, with its crew showing others how to combine old and new technology in ways that could defeat the Ravagers. 1 month after finding the recording, He-yun stood on the Boundless's bridge. Through the main viewport, she could see Earth's new defense fleet gathering. Hundreds of ships, each one carrying both quantum and traditional technology, prepared for the biggest battle yet to come. Admiral Kim's voice came over the main communication channel. "Captain Park, our long-range sensors have detected a massive Ravager fleet approaching. They'll be here in 6 hours. Are you ready?" He-yun looked at her crew. Do-yeon gave her a thumbs up from engineering. Ji-ho nodded confidently at his tactical station. Every person on the bridge showed the same determination she felt. "Yes, Admiral," she replied. "The Boundless leads the way." As Earth's fleet moved into position, He-yun thought about how far they had come. Just a few months ago, the Boundless had been a forgotten relic in a museum. Now it was humanity's greatest hope, a bridge between the past and the future. "All ships, battle formation," she ordered. "Remember your training. Switch between quantum and traditional systems, just like we practiced. Don't let them predict your patterns." The Ravager fleet appeared exactly where the sensors said they would. It was the largest group of alien ships they had seen yet, over 200 vessels of various sizes. But this time, Earth was ready. "All ships, execute Battle Plan Phoenix," He-yun commanded. The space battle that followed would be remembered for generations. Earth's fleet moved like dancers, switching power sources faster than the Ravagers could adjust their weapons. When the aliens tried to use their quantum disruption fields, Earth's ships would switch to traditional power. When the Ravagers tried to defend against physical weapons, the fleet would switch back to quantum systems. The Boundless led the attack, using all of its hidden systems for the first time. The ship seemed to come alive, as if it had been waiting 50 years for this moment. Its weapons found their targets with incredible accuracy, and its defenses stood strong against everything the Ravagers threw at it. Hour after hour, the battle raged. Ships were lost on both sides, but Earth's fleet held together. The Ravagers, faced with an enemy they couldn't simply shut down, began to retreat. Their perfectly organized formation broke apart as more of their ships fell to Earth's combined technology. Finally, after 6 hours of intense fighting, the last Ravager ship disappeared into deep space. Cheers erupted throughout the fleet. They had won not just a battle, but perhaps the entire war. The Ravagers had learned that humanity wasn't as defenseless as they had thought. In the days that followed, He-Yun was promoted to admiral. The Boundless became the flagship of Earth's new fleet, leading missions to help colonies recover from Ravager attacks. More importantly, it became a symbol of an important lesson. True strength comes from understanding both the old and the new. You know what's funny? Du Yun said to He-Yun one evening, as they watched Earth's sunset from the Boundless's observation deck. Everyone called this ship obsolete, but it was actually ahead of its time. We just didn't know it yet. He-Yun smiled. The people who built the Boundless knew something we had forgotten. There's no such thing as obsolete knowledge. Everything we learn, everything we create, has value. We just have to remember to keep the best of the past while we reach for the future. As if agreeing with her words, the Boundless's engines hummed softly. The old ship had earned its place in history not once, but twice. First as the ship that saved Earth, and then as the ship that taught humanity how to save itself. The legend of the obsolete battleship was complete, but its story would be told for generations to come, reminding people that sometimes the old ways aren't just worth remembering. They're worth preserving.